We're Team 7 and we'll be discussing and analyzing New York City motor vehicle collisions data. We decided to research and explore the trends of New York City motor collisions over the past 9 years. There were around 280,000 car accidents in New York City in 2018. If we can understand these patterns and use the results to inform policymakers of what increases the likelihood of injuries or deaths, we can develop processes to improve driver safety and reduce accidents, hopefully decreasing from the 280,000 car accidents. Overall, we want to use our research from this dataset to help city leaders increase the safety of New York City by limiting motor vehicle collisions.
In order to plan our analysis of the New York City motor vehicle collision data, we came up with some questions to guide our exploration. The first one being, when and where did these collisions happen, which feeds into our other question, is there a certain borough that has the most motor vehicle collisions? The next one is, what are the main causes of these motor vehicle collisions, and are there certain times in the day that are more dangerous than others? Next, we want to know if there's any types of vehicles that are more prone to collisions. And lastly, has COVID affected motor vehicle collision patterns at all?
The dataset we used is a list of all archived collisions where either a person was harmed or more than $1,000 of damage occurred. Aligned with our research questions, the police reports were the best resource to learn more about traffic safety and understand trends to make recommendations. We also faced some challenges along the way, with the biggest one being that most columns were categorical values, which banned the opportunity to use sophisticated regression methods, unfortunately.
To clean our data, we imported the data into Python and then used the heat map to find all the null values in the dataset. We found that many columns such as off-street name, contributing factor vehicle 3, and vehicle type code 3 had many null values, so if we just ran the drop NA code, we'd be left with no rows. For the sake of our analysis, we dropped those columns first, and then proceeded to run the drop NA code to drop any other rows that had null values. In terms of the tools and methods we use to perform analysis on our data, we use Tableau for visualization purposes, and we also use Python for data analysis with plotting using Seaborn and Matplotlib. For Python, we also perform clustering on the data.
First, we plotted each collision on a map in Tableau to get an overall view of the data. At first glance, the collisions look somewhat evenly distributed across New York, and our initial hypothesis is that Manhattan should have the highest density of motor vehicle collisions since it's the highest populated area. Next, we created a heat map out of all the collisions and grouped them by borough to investigate which borough has the highest density of motor vehicle collisions. From the heat map, we can see that Kings County, or Brooklyn, has the highest density of motor vehicle collisions. This can be explained by the many expressways like the Belt Parkway in Brooklyn, which have extremely high traffic congestion. According to Jacob and Myers injury attorneys, drivers in the area are more prone to speeding or distracted driving behavior, like texting and driving, and consequences of these behaviors can be exacerbated by traffic in a dangerous way.
To gain a basic understanding of the data, we clustered the last 10,000 crashes because of limited computing power. However, there are still trends that can be easily identified. First, commuter crashes seem to be a large cluster, and night crashes seem to correlate better with high injury numbers. However, at this point we were still left with the challenge that most values are categorical, therefore more individual exploration and analysis was necessary to understand the traffic collision landscape.
For this graph, we are showing the total number of crashes by hour. To generate this, we have to convert the crash time column from a string to a date time value and then only take the hour value from that date time. We then grouped the values by hour and summed up the total number of crashes per hour to create a plot to show the fluctuations in the number of crashes throughout the 24-hour period. Based on the graph, the times with the most crashes were 4 p.m. and 5 p.m., which makes sense due to the afternoon commute.
Now that we have seen the distribution of crashes per hour of day, we want to further explore. While understanding that total crashes max out during the daytime, especially during the afternoon commute, we can see that this is not that apparent for total deaths and injuries, which already hints towards a higher danger of driving at night. Especially, we can see that traffic deaths are lowest midday and high during the night. And then on the right, we observe that on a per crash basis, the night is by far more dangerous than the day. As far as injuries, we can basically see a constant increase from 10 a.m. through 4 a.m. the next night. So for a specific crash, someone is almost twice as likely to get injured at 4 a.m. than at 8 a.m. or 10 a.m.
This count plot was created to show the most common reasons for collisions. To generate this, we had to combine contributing factor vehicles 1 and 2 to get collision reasons for all cars involved in crashes. We then removed the unspecified value from this dataset since it didn't provide any valuable insight into our analysis. We then created a count plot ordered by contributing factor and limited it to the top 20 factors. Based on the plot, the most common reasons included distracted driving, failure to yield to the right-of-way, and following too closely.
Here's a collection of bar plots from Python of 5 different boroughs in New York City. The bar plots show the number of deaths and injuries from the collisions while taking into account the population to determine which boroughs have resulted in the most dangerous crashes and the most injury death-prone months for each borough. The data shows that Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx have the highest death/injury rate, while Manhattan and Staten Island are overall safer with a lower rate. Additionally, the data shows that the summer and early fall months often have the most deadly accidents, with the least occurring in the winter.
Now going a little bit further into detail, we can say that the vehicle analysis results did not surprise us, with sedans and SUVs being the most involved vehicles. However, analyzing the injury rate of crashes on the right, we can see that two-wheel vehicles are by far more vulnerable. And the other observation that we thought was significant is that the death rate of large trucks, such as tankers, flatbeds, or garbage trucks, are very high, which is understandable due to the size and the weight of the vehicle, but can probably be reduced by making additional safety features mandatory for such vehicles, and that's also one of the recommendations you would give to the city. When looking at the crash causes, we can see that the most dangerous factor is by far unsafe speed. Almost 70% of crashes lead to an injury and more than 10% lead to the death of a person. So this outlines very well the opportunity for New York City to use this data as educational resource and also as guideline for policy creation, since unsafe speed and traffic control disregarded are two categories that could be disincentivized by increasing fines or setting speed limits in hotspots. On the other hand, distraction, alcohol involvement, and aggressive driving, for example, require raising awareness of the danger of not paying attention while driving, but this is a thing that New York City really has to address and can while using this very focused data. Lastly, we quickly want to go over another trend that we can observe in the data, and that is that since COVID-19 lockdown started, traffic has significantly decreased, and with it, collision numbers have dropped to an all-time low. This also tells us that decreasing traffic has to remain a priority, since that seems to be the most successful way of minimizing total crashes.
In conclusion, the New York Department of Transportation should look to the hotspots seen in the heat map for ways to improve traffic safety and decrease accidents. We also saw how commuter traffic can create most collisions, but the most dangerous crashes occur at night. Despite this, some of the most dangerous factors to accidents can be addressed by increasing fines and raising awareness of traffic safety in the population, especially owners of two-wheel vehicles since they are the most at risk to be injured, and large truck owners since they have the largest death rate out of all vehicle types due to their large size and weight. Lastly, by observing how COVID decreasing traffic also in turn decreased collisions, the New York City Department of Transportation can tangibly see how important decreasing traffic in general affects the safety of motorists and pedestrians.